Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. Hope you enjoy it. Sometimes I get a bit nervous when I make these videos, or wonder why I do them. But yeah, I hope you enjoy them. I hope some people out there enjoy them, especially fans of football, and in particular fans of Napoli or Italian football generally. But anyway, I do try and make these ones a bit different to the ones I make on my Facebook. But because of my patterns and things like that, and habits, and being a creature of habit, I do struggle to make changes. But as ever, I'd love to hear what you think, and hopefully you can post some positive quotes or comments or things that inspire me and motivate me. And I also hope another group I hope will watch these videos are like neurodiverse people, but I'd love for as many people as possible to watch them. But I'd love for neurodiverse people with dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, or autism especially, to watch them as well as football fans and Italian football fans in particular. Anyway, with that being said, I'll try to stop waffling and crack on with my list of ideas or dreams for Napoli. So, number 21, I would love for people to find out about the history of Napoli and Naples, the city itself, and also the football team, and what it means to the community, and when it was founded, what the official name is, the logo, and all sorts of facts and figures and historical things about the club. And that sort of thing. Number 22, I'd love to look into how the club can advance in the future. And I'd love to listen to football fans generally talk about their views. Like, for instance, as I mentioned before in some of my videos, like it would be interesting if FIFA had more of a fan voice. So things like the World Cup or Euros or any other event around the world would the fans have some sort of input, where the fans can have polls where they vote on things. So hopefully it would avoid being corruptible as much as possible. So like fans could vote about on things like where the World Cup should be held and things like that, and how football should be run. Like if FIFA tries to make changes without listening to fans, I think it'd be good if the fans had a voice, so that they said. So they stopped any international body or government or FIFA itself from making any changes to football without the fans having our say so in the matter collectively, not just me obviously, but football fans generally, all possible football fans having a say. I think would be cool. Anyway, moving on to another point. I think there are a few things I wanted to cover, but I don't want the video to be too long, so I probably won't cover them in these videos, or in this video specifically at least. Number 23, I would love to see what Napoli could do, like for football for good, to make the world a better place. Like, for instance, supporting women in developing countries in terms of like supporting poets from parts of Africa and Asia, and Ireland, and what they call the six generally, and all sorts of things like that for charity, like what sort of things they could do. And again, I'd love to hear your suggestions on each of these points or ideas, like how to attract investment into Napoli and what Napoli could do to help others as well. Number 24, I think it'd be cool if local politicians and councils and businesses, investors, and all sorts of people, as well as international companies and investors, excuse me, would pump money into Napoli and support the club. And also, I dream that the club would also have fans from around the world, increase its fan base around the world, like in parts of Asia, Africa, and Ireland. Again, what I call the six, generally as well. Yeah, maybe having like, with that ownership, maybe like if there are people who invest, like even wealthy Arabs and Africans and Asians, having shares in the company in Napoli. Sorry, I suppose it is a company technically, but anyway, having shares in Napoli, hopefully they can have supporters clubs back in their home countries as well. But yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. Like whether that's Nigeria or Cameroon or Kenya or Malaysia or India, Indonesia, Singapore, or any part of Asia or Africa or anything like that, or any countries like that. Sorry. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool, as I say, to have a fan base around the world, and look at what they can achieve internationally. And I'd love to hear what you think about Napoli, if you're from somewhere else, like what you think about City, both positive or negative or whatnot, or anything you know about Napoli as a city. Obviously, I think Napoli is the Italian name, and Naples is the English name for Napoli. Number 25, possibly more of the investors could come from republics, but I think it'd be cool as a fan of Italian football generally, and I'm sure many Napoli fans specifically, would welcome investment and sponsorship money from all sorts of sources, even like Qatar or places like that, if they're able to invest or whatever. Um, Basically, sovereign wealth funds and Arab investors and investors from Africa and elsewhere, uh, Asia as well as say and elsewhere. I think I'm sure they would welcome that investment. Number 26, as I often mention, I think it'd be cool if Napoli sort of gave back and including reparations. I know I do talk about that a lot, but I think it'd be cool if they reparated countries that are colonized, especially countries that are colonized by Italy itself. Sorry, my nose is always running somewhere. I think it's a dust, excuse me, a dust allergy with my hoarding and stuff that possibly doesn't help. But anyway, it is what it is. Something I can't really control. But yeah, number 27. I think it'd be cool if they had a list of their top investors and sponsors, people that put money into the club, either on their website or on their YouTube or both, or even on all their social media, and fans could acknowledge and have lists on their own social media and general websites and things like that about um, the top contributors to Napoli in terms of people who put money into the club. Number 28, a bit of I don't know if it's a controversial idea, but I'm a bit wary about how to explain it because it's a bit another one of my quirky ideas. But I was thinking, as Neapolitans are often discriminated against in Italy, as far as I'm aware, I think it'd be interesting if people from the black diaspora invested in Napoli, like having that connection as like the underdog, so to speak, to use an English term, um, or a British term, or whatever. Pretty sure that's a British term. Anyway, not sure if other countries use the same term, but I think America might. But anyway, to as they are underdogs, and as many times black people are called names like the N word, which I don't want to mention. I think it'd be interesting if they had that connection and looked at what names Neapolitans are called by people in Italy and possibly overseas as well. So they could perhaps have that underdog connection, or the oppressed sticking together and that sort of thing. Number 29, I would love for my fellow neurodiverse people to invest in and maybe even donate to the club or have shares in the club. And as I mentioned on my Facebook, and again, I did try and keep it a little bit different, so I hope it is or as different as possible. But again, due to my patterns, I do find it a bit difficult to talk about something different. But I think it'd be interesting if dyslexic and ADHD and possibly even autistic and even dyspraxic people had shares in Napoli. Like if people with dyspraxia do well in business or in other areas, given how people with ASD from ASD backgrounds, autism spectrum disorder backgrounds, um, might not really be generally hugely into football because of the social aspect, which they might struggle with. But I think people say, I'm not sure if this is true, but there is a rumor that Lionel Messi, who was arguably the best player in the world, or at least one of them, uh, I think he'd come in most people's top five, if not the top. Um, there is a rumor that he might have Asperger's or some form of autism. I know some people don't like to use the term Asperger's anymore, but anyway, that's a video for another time. But yeah, but basically ASD, autism spectrum disorder, he might have. So I'm not sure if that's true or not, or if there's any evidence to show that. Um, but obviously, he's done really well. But yeah, there probably are many autistic people who are involved in football. I'd love to hear if you're autistic, your thoughts on this. But yeah, in terms of dyspraxic people, I have dyspraxia as well. But although I can play football, not as well as I like, but I can still play football. But many dyspraxic people probably can't play football at all. Or if they do, it's not to the higher level that they might want to play. And at school, they are often picked last. Uh, in some sports that involve coordination, I did struggle with, but yeah, I'm sure my classmates will say I wasn't the worst footballer out. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting. And again, I mentioned on my Facebook that Steve Ballmer owns, I think it's a basketball team. It could be an NFL team, but I think it's a basketball team. I'm pretty sure. And he's not the most sporty, I imagine. He's quite geeky, so it's probably his way of getting back at or maybe he just doesn't love that team, but there's probably at least some of him that wants to get back at the people who picked on him at school for not being that sporty, for being a bit geeky. And but yeah, I think it'd be interesting if, I say, dyspraxic people and autistic people, or even people that, especially people with ADHD and dyslexia, invested in Napoli, like neurodiverse people. And if I could create like the neurodiverse millionaires and billionaires networks that I dream of creating, I would love for them to donate and invest in Napoli. Um, and yeah, help it to get back to the top and showcase what us neurodiverse people can do and what we can achieve. Maybe even donating to the club, but especially having shares and investments in the club. Um, yeah, as I say, people with dyspraxia and autism, I think it'd be cool if they showed, um, yeah, those who weren't that good at school, but maybe have done well in business, could say, um, get back at the people who picked on them, perhaps if they were better at sport than they are, by investing in Napoli. Also, I'm a bit biased as a town football fan. But yeah, so I think I covered as much as possible on that point. But yeah, and number 30, again, I think it'd be cool if um, the football club worked with the local council, local politicians and schools, and local district, or whatever it's called, basically working with charities and N.G.O.s as well, and organisations across Napoli, Naples, or whatever you call it, to encourage people to cut crime through football, and also like to clean the streets, like get rid of litter and things like that, and make the city more tidy and more popular, and like something more they could be proud of, and like talk about how the football club can have a role in doing that, just like other football clubs do in the community, and they could have like football in the community and spaces and places for sports. Anyway, I hope I didn't waffle too much, and I hope some people out there enjoyed my quirky ideas, and I'd love to hear what you think. Hopefully positive, constructive criticism welcome though, and again, I love to read positive quotes and things like that, and I am out. Peace and love.